Hello, good evening, and welcome to Goblet Games. This is session 3 of our Dune actual play that we started the day after the book came out, which is lots of fun. We've got the members of House Dargush. It's the year 10156, and we're on Arrakis. Joining us on Arrakis is the leader of our little troop, Dela, played by Lewis.
Hello, I'm Lewis, and I'm playing Dela Dargush, the hopeful heir to the Dargush house, but current third son to the nominal heir. And I think it's time we dealt with the Vonmir a bit more.
Who have you got with you?
Pass it along.
Which way did he point?
I don't know.
Oh God, which screen was that on?
It's the other way.
That way.
The other way. Yeah, that was actually the edge of the screen where there isn't anybody. So it looks like it's Alden next, because we're going to wrap around.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Consummate professionalism.
We go far enough round, you end up always back with me. Hello and good evening. I will be playing Morgan Graff of the Space Graphs. Stay tuned for yet more branches of that particular family. I will be playing the Junior Marshal of House Dargush. I am an ambitious and dangerous house officer.
And from the military to the sublime, going up, we've got Aaron.
Hi, I'm Aaron, and I am playing Isaac Roque. He is a Mentat, the House Inquisitive of House Dargush, a very precise and discreet man who supports the third heir to the house.
And definitely not embarrassing herself in public ever is the graceful and elegant Gretchen, played by Millie.
I quit.
I just pointed the wrong way on the screen.
I quit. I'm going home. Yeah, my name's Millie. My character is Gretchen Riddle, Bene Gesserit and envoy, junior envoy, public relations manager, kitchen, aide, and bad bodyguard to Dela. Look, all I'm going to say is
you tried to save me.
If you bring knives
can't blame.
to a noble dinner and you chuck them around, people are going to misunderstand because you're stupid. That's all it is.
It was a simple misunderstanding, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, the jugglers of House Jongleur decided it would be fun to throw a whole mess of knives at the top table whilst entertaining them. And both Dela and Gretchen leapt into action to protect everybody, not realizing it was part of the show. So they left feeling a trifle embarrassed. So last week we had our dinner time adventure where we sat down in the great hall of the residence on Arrakis in Arrakeen, had a big dinner, met a few people, had a few chats, dodged a few knives, and then eventually retired to our suite at the end of the day. There's a packed row of activities lined up for the following day, now that everybody's rested and fed and watered. And so we're ready to begin doing some of the games. But with it being the Harkonnens putting on the games, we all know that they do like a little bit of the old ultra-violence. So first thing in the morning, an attendant arrives at the door of the Dargush suite in Harkonnen livery, bearing a wrapped scroll. He bows and delivers it into the hands of your Mentat.
Thank you. I shall make sure that my master, Dela, receives this after a due course. But of course, I bring it inside the suite, gently put it down, bring the poison sniffers out, and take a very close look at the scroll to make sure that it doesn't have any poison needles or anything else in it that might accidentally kill Dela.
It does not have any of those things in there. I'm not going to get you to roll because it would be quite rude to deliver poison in this.
True, but I do not trust House Van Meer. They might
Which is
have.
understandable because they are the bad guys.
So I will. My Lord Dela, we have a scroll from House Harkonnen. I believe it is addressed to you.
Well, we'd best
Shall
take a
I-
look then.
By all means.
It is an invitation to submit members of your household guard or house retinue for a series of games to be undertaken today in the afternoon after the sun has reached the highest point. There's a marksmanship contest. There is gladiatorial combat to round off the day, but in between the marksmanship and gladiatorial combat, there is mixed troop groups, solo house, matched pairs, small group, and then gradually it gets more and more gladiatorial as the day wears on until it's 1v1. At which point it's members of household retinue that are invited to take part rather than just foot soldiers.
Well, I suppose we should put out a list of, or start making up a list of our best candidates.
There's also an after note, which is bordering on the offensive, that suggests there will also be a technical display for those less martial houses.
We can disrupt that in some way. That would be funny. Blame it on the Von Meers. No.
It's an RSVP invitation. They want to know who you want to submit, what you want to submit people for.
What do we reckon group that we stand the best chance at?
Depends on the categories of the group fighting, Sir Dala. In a stand-up fight, my money would be on the Kiwa.
Yeah, but it's run by the House Harkonnen. I don't think we need to worry about any of us standing up to fight.
Yeah.
We'll,
But it
So
depends what the groups are
troop
being
sessions,
asked to do.
yeah.
the troop sessions so the first thing, the first troop session is the marksmanship one, when they're looking for your troops to step, it's foot soldiers, not house attendants, that they want in the marksmanship contest. After that, there is house versus house skirmishing with non-lethal weapons. Then there's house plus house versus house plus house. After that,
We want to be in that.
That would be interesting. There would be a chance to cement our alliance with the Kiwa, I would say.
I think so. And
They
also,
can be heavy infantry.
Should we see if we can pair up against the QR and then also fight with the QR? Like,
well,
does that make sense?
Maybe add some to the house versus house as well.
following
And
the
then-
2 houses versus 2 houses option, there is then a number of smaller competitions in the late afternoon, which are sort of 1 or 2 men against 1 or 2 men. There's also a treasure hunt through the streets
That's
of
something
Arrakis.
that our particular house guard might be fairly good at.
I think our Corporal Wyoming might be quite skilled.
Well, we'll put him down for that then. And
The
I
very last
definitely-
thing in the evening before dinner is the 1v1 gladiatorial combat that can be between foot soldiers or house attendants.
Go on then, Morgan, if you want to join in.
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't want to presume, sir, but if you command me, then I will, of course, represent the
Oh.
honor of the house.
Basically, if you don't, I will. So-
I could
Whether
not
they
risk
want
the
me to or not.
third heir at this point in time.
Mm. Okay. So I think, yeah, we probably want to give a good showing with our newfound allies in house plus house versus house plus house. And then maybe run rings around people with our distinctly reconnaissance-based house guard in the treasure hunt. And then we'll put Graf up to beat the crap out of some people for the gladiatorial event.
For the honor of the house, yes.
Just honor, absolutely no enjoyment. It's a heavy weight to bear.
What is
Yeah.
the point of power if you don't wield it?
Yeah.
With a big stick.
Yes,
So
I
as you're
have the
discussing
stick.
these activities that you wish to take part in, an envoy does actually arrive at your door from House Kiwa. He's wearing a sort of white long dhoti shirt and big baggy white trousers with a gold trim, curl-toed sandals, short sleeves showing off the big gold armband around his lean but muscled arms. And he bows and is holding a knife in his hands, sheathed.
Yeah.
Who's answering the door to him?
I suppose Isaac would probably answer the door, and he'll return the bow. And he goes, "You honor us with your presence. How may I help you?"
The Inkosi wishes to know if you will join with us in the two-house competition.
I would not presume to speak for Lord Daler, so I shall summon him, but I do believe that was our hope as well.
He presents the dagger to you.
I take it, and I call Daler over to hand it to him.
Yep, I will accept it.
Bear in mind, you already gave them one yesterday.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, there you go. I need one.
Yeah.
I wanted one of their fancy ones.
It is a fancy one. It is a very, very beautiful blade. It's made of some kind of hyper compressed carbon steel composite blade, folded many, many times to such a sharp edge. The only way it could be any sharper would be if it were monomolecular.
Yeah.
But this is hand forged by an expert. It's been chased with gold and etched with the symbol of House Kiwa. So it's a knife with a picture of a knife on it.
Honorable gift.
The greatest of knives. I will accept it, and I will send him back with a jug of our water and say we gladly accept. And we hope to see you soon. Oh.
Anybody else that you want to get in touch with?
How are you rating your chances, Morgan?
Well, it depends who I'm up against. I might do a bit of a recce in the afternoon. Over the course of dinner, I was talking with, I think it was Dr. Heinrich.
Yes.
One of the Gunriks, probably one of the ones that have been slightly impugned in terms of their technical prowess. And I wonder if there isn't something we could do to further follow up that alliance.
Is the treasure hunt house versus house, or is it a team up as well?
The treasure hunt, it doesn't specify whether it's house versus house or team up. It's just there is a treasure hunt. They haven't even told you what the treasure is or what format the hunt will take.
Well, if there are no
we
rules,
should,
then...
yeah, precisely. We can reach out to our new potential allies for that as well.
Yes.
Graf, would you mind
reaching out? I would be happy to. Could I request Gretchen to come with me? They expressed some interest in the Bene Gesserit.
Yeah.
As long as they don't dissect her, yeah, sure.
Do not believe that was their intention. Otherwise, I would not have suggested.
They can try.
Yeah. I mostly fear for them, and
although that would have been funny as well.
Yeah.
They can try. But I'll go Morgan. I'll go with Morgan. We can interrogate, investigate, speak with. Yes, yeah, that's a thing.
Good. I should check in with the troops and see if Corporal Wyoming has indeed returned from his outside saunter from yesterday.
Also, over the day, we should perhaps. What was the girl's name?
Abia?
Abia. Yeah. We should make some requests from her in the kitchen to maybe meet somewhere or have her bring, or perhaps.
We do not want to meet in the rooms because they are stuffy. Maybe she could bring vitals and fresh foods to the troops before they're fighting, and this would be a chance to have a conversation outside of stuffy walls.
Yes, yeah, that's a good plan. I will.
Well, seems like a fair idea.
Morgan trying to be subtle about listening devices.
Yes.
We should indeed maybe, on the cusp of such a momentous day, have lunch with the troops.
I think that would be wonderful for their morale, Sir Dala.
All right.
Okay, we should definitely arrange that as well then.
I'll tell them to go clean themselves up.
Okay, Isaac, anything you want to do?
Isaac would say to Lord Dalla that he would like to take a walk around the grounds, but make it clear in the way he says it that he's going to be looking to see if any of the seeds of intrigue that he spread during the last night's dinner bear fruit.
Certainly. I mean, I'm not going to keep my mentap from your constitutional. It'll keep your mind sharp. We may need it today.
You are most kind, my lord.
Okay. Maybe also, if you get a chance to have a look at the arenas, that could give us a bit of an edge later on.
Yes.
As you wish.
Especially perhaps for the team up.
I am quite certain that House Harkonnen would make sure that the competition is fair, but I will take a look at the arena for you. Of course, once again, intimating that House Harkonnen is going to be cheating, and that I'll see what I can do to circumvent whatever they're going to do.
I mean, to be honest, if you just make sure it works in our advantage, I'm fine with that too.
Okay, so you split up and start going your separate ways.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right, Dayla, what are you going to do? Everybody else has left. You've got 2 honor guards.
Yeah.
Still stood nearby outside the door. But you're a little bit more vulnerable without the rest of your posse there.
Well, I mean, isn't that the ideal moment to spring traps?
It's a harsh lesson to learn, Paul.
I think Dayla actually, come to think of it, it's still probably very early in the morning as the Harkonnens delivered the message early. The jongleurs practice out on that court every day. I might try and see if I can get there first today.
By the time you head up to the outside court, there is a troop of jongleurs sort of throwing themselves around languidly. They don't seem to be training very hard. It looks like they're in the sort of wind down phase, but they're still sort of jumping around and juggling and throwing things back and forth, practicing their tumbling and their tricks and techniques.
Yeah. I'll
You
start.
notice that Justine Jungler is sat under a large umbrella on a long couch that's been carried out for her. There is a servant from the house fanning her with a big leaf, and a table next to her which has got an iced jug of wine and a big tray of fruit on it.
Can you spend momentum to make items?
You can spend momentum to create assets.
Yeah. I just want to have some form of listening device on my person.
I believe you can spend momentum to create assets. I know you can
Yep,
create
2.
assets.
Yeah.
Yes, it's 2
Yeah,
momentum to create a temporary
create a
asset.
level 0.
Level 0
something,
temporary asset, yes.
Yeah,
And that seems like
fine.
an entirely reasonable thing to use it for.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll do that then. And then I'm going to start going through sort of with the 2 house guard through a few swordsman warm-ups and things and spar with both of them at the same time for a little bit. Try
And they know what's going on as well. So they push you a little bit, but they're also not going to push you to the point where you're actually going to have to make a roll for it. But they give you a good workout. They're respectful, and that you can see from them as well that they were expecting it to be easier than it turns out to be. And they start to work up a bit of a sweat, and their respect for you seems to grow a little as well.
That's always useful. Yeah. Then as it winds down, and perhaps as the jongleurs are winding down, I just want to watch them for a little bit and then comment on the jongleur's skill to, is it Justine?
Yeah, the servant that is stood there with the fan props it up against the chair and comes scurrying over to you and bows, says, Sir Dargush, the Lady Justine wonders if you would care to join her for a glass of wine.
Certainly.
And he goes rushing back and picks up his fan and starts fanning again.
I'll nod and saunter over.
And she's lounging in a silk robe, artfully arranged to cover things but leave things to very little to the imagination. A huge pair of sunglasses and an enormous hat. And she's loosely cradling a glass of pale pink wine in one hand with condensation beading on the outside of it. It has quite a fruity aroma, and you can smell the fruit on the table as you get close in the dry Arrakeen air. Another 2 servants drag a couch up and put it on the opposite side of the table to her.
Does that have me facing away from the jongler?
No, it'd have you, if you lounge on it in the same way that she's lounging on it, you'd be looking at the jongleurs, and turning your head, you'd be able to see her.
I'll sort of not lounge completely, but basically sit the way I was sitting with when we first visited grandmother. Sort of, recline back a bit in an easy pose. And
a servant passes you a glass of the wine as well, poured from a jug next to her on the table.
I have a poison snooper on me, so I'll have it sort of concealed in my and just hold the glass of wine for a couple of seconds and swill it.
Very discreet.
Yeah.
So, noble cousin, what do you think of my acrobats and dancers?
Well, they proved rather entertaining yesterday, and they certainly seem to have some skill to them.
It's always been the specialization of our house. People overlook entertainers and performers far too much. It's a difficult life we lead, and so often youth is our only defense.
Well, share that problem myself. However, I believe it can be overcome with the right moves.
Quite. Now, remind me, I'm terribly sorry. I know this is slightly gauche of me, but your father is the house heir. Is that true?
Yes, but it's my grandmother who runs the house currently.
Yes, wonderful. It's lovely to have a woman in charge of a house. It should happen more often.
Well, she's
And
certainly
your
been
brothers
doing
were
a good
unable
job.
to attend, I assume.
They have other matters to attend to. They're currently supporting my father in his endeavors.
Hmm. And so you find yourself here as an ambassador. Intriguing.
Yes, especially as I've recently returned from Guinness, so it's nice to be able to stretch my legs a bit and
So I hear.
get out and about. I'll watch the jongleur troupe a little bit more. They're very artful, though. They going to be partaking in the competitions this day?
Probably not the main fighting ones.
Hmm.
We're performers, right? I imagine that they'll do a bit here and there in between the other shows. You know, we don't want to throw our weight around like soldiers. There are far too many soldiers here as it is. Obviously, we have our own house troops, but not putting those out there in the field seems no need. I think we may fare well in the treasure hunt. That sounds fun. Tell me, have you paired up with anyone yet?
Well, for the more martial events, we have a little pairing in mind. But
I hear the Omora are looking for someone to babysit them.
I can imagine. I imagine your other friends will probably do rather well, though.
The Fenrings, I can't imagine that they'll be too much into it. They may throw a few people down here and there, but they're not a particularly militant house.
Oh no, I meant your friends with their particular specialization in Carnley.
Oh, the Taisheng.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll do much. They don't like to show off. They're quiet folks.
I'd be interested to see what happened anyway.
Yes,
I mean,
fascinating.
such
I wonder
artful
who you'll be
crowd like
placed
yourself,
against.
and
Do you have a preference for who you'd like to fight tomorrow? Today?
House Dargush is willing to participate against any and all comers, but I imagine there's at least one house that may top our list, shall we say?
I'd heard as much, yes. Terrible business with the Richies. A very unfortunate thing. Anyway, this has been lovely, but I really must be off. I have to go and get ready. Lovely talking to you.
The very same. I hope we can do it again sometime.
And she flows off the Shaylong, and the dancers all sort of gather around her and move around, obscuring her from sight as they go back inside.
I'll let her go.
She's left something on the table. It's a small data crystal sat on the table.
There isn't.
It's a
It
trap.
appears to have disappeared. Traps are only fun if you spring them.
Went all Akbar. Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, I will put it up the opposite sleeve to my poison snooper.
Okay, so Isaac goes for a little walk.
So once he leaves, he ducks into some shadows, activates his Cybus hood, and then begins to very stealthily make his way away from the house compound, so that when he reemerges, he is far removed from the House Dargush suites.
The first thing you notice when you pop out is 3 mentats from House Yash stood in quiet conference with one another. They look up when you reappear. One of them nods to you.
I subtly nod back. I see a conclave of brothers in study. What brings you out on such a delightful morning?
Our analysis predicted that this would be the most likely place one would expect to find you, at the furthest remove from your own house.
And my analysis assumed that those searching for me would be waiting here, and so we have all come together.
We were wondering why it is that you would attempt to suggest that you may be willing to act against your own house.
Should someone have drawn that inference, they would, of course, immediately realize that I am but a bought servant. And although House Dargush has paid for my services, that does not mean they would be my only master.
Interesting. Statistical analysis based on your background and current position within the Dargush would seem to suggest that this could potentially be a ploy. We calculate an 87.3% probability that this is an attempt to flush out those who may clumsily try to recruit you.
Your calculations are slightly off. It is actually 89.6% likelihood that I am attempting to sniff out adversaries to House Dargush. You forgot one small variable, but your calculations based on the information you had are quite good. However, that does not change the fact that you are here and I am here. Was there something else that you wished to discuss?
Merely that we had acknowledged your move and wished to comment on it and identify that such move had been noted, and it will be fed into our calculations. There was a question you may be able to answer for us.
Ask and I shall see if it is something that I can address.
As you may or may not know, our house are particularly adept in strategization of the statistical and analytical sciences. We are retained in many opportunities by the Emperor himself to investigate the interplay between the great and minor houses. And we are keenly aware that you are here with the 7th in line for the Dargush heir.
This is correct. I am here. He is the 7th in line.
And yet, 7th in line being sent to a conference such as this suggests that your house holds him in high political capital, perhaps above that of those before him in the line of succession. Does his recent term at the Ginaz school suggest that his value to the house has increased, and therefore his older siblings are of less value?
That is a very interesting question you pose. I would ask, what do your calculations come up with when you have run the variables?
We have run the variables and foresee 3 possible situations. Down one path, he is a sacrifice to flush out enemies of the house. He represents quite a vocal young man, and being politically naive, could be very prone to making a political gaffe at an event such as this that could lead to somebody taking great offence. Such eventuality would suggest that he is here to goad House Bonmere into taking action against you, justifying the movement towards Canley, or indeed House War. Our second line of suggestion believes that he is here to represent a token of interest without insulting anybody. So he is neither important nor irrelevant and serves merely to represent a placeholder for the house, since the lady of the house herself is almost too old for such travel. Our third likelihood is that young Master Daler, Sir Daler, excuse me, is currently being lined up with an internal court of his own. I note he is equipped with a mentat, a Bene Gesserit, and a house officer of his own, who, as until recently, do not feature heavily on the records of House Dargush within the Imperial throne, thereby suggesting that he is being set up as a potential backup to the house command structure in the unlikely event of Von Meer taking action against the house whilst he's here.
Your three suppositions based on the variables you have are accurate to a point. I would be willing to perhaps correct some of your erroneous variables in your calculations if you yourselves had something of interest to House Dargush that may compensate for our shared knowledge.
I see, says the one of the three who's been talking the most. Would you be interested in some of the information that we possess on the other houses in exchange for this correction to our variables?
I would be most interested in such information, primarily as it relates to the relationship between House Von Moor and House Harkonnen.
Very good that you were able to identify such a transaction in such a short space of time. Your talents are noteworthy, particularly given that you do not make much use of the juice of sapphire.
I prefer to be very discreet when I travel, and such, although a benefit, can make us much more obvious.
I quite understand. For us, advertising our role as mentats makes us more useful to the house. For you, being a subtle mentat is probably a greater asset at this time. Very well, we have an accord.
Indeed. And as a show of good faith, I will explain to you where one of your variables is inaccurate. Sir Daler, a master of the blade, is in no way politically naive. I have been working with him myself, as have the other staff, and you will find his skills subtle and astute.
Interesting. He plays a very good game then, because he plays to the suite of those who believe him to be naive, whilst at the same time obscuring his hand with political acumen. Cunning adversary indeed, a useful thing to know. We will adjust our variables accordingly. You may be wishing to know then that our information on House Bonmere suggests that they are currently attempting to form a go-between alliance with both the Bene Tleilax and House Harkonnen. Suggestions range from abandoning House Rachis in exchange for the Harkonnens to hitch their wagon to a rising star, so as to speak. They appear to have learned a great deal from the Tleilaxu of late, as can be seen by their bioengineered servitors. However, the Tleilaxu are notoriously reluctant to part with their secrets, and such information as they have appears to have been reverse engineered. We calculate that their servitors have a number of weaknesses and are probably very short-lived, unlike a true Gola, which has a full natural lifespan.
Interesting. I had assumed some of what you have told me, but the information that you have provided has amplified my understanding of their relationships. Would you say that House Harkonnen is themselves interested in this deal, or are they simply, shall we say, stringing the house along?
I would suggest that the Harkonnen interest in them does not necessarily lead from the biologicals, but is probably closer related to their proselytic abilities. Should the Harkonnens make use of them, it will not be for their biologicals. They can afford to purchase that from the Tleilaxu directly. They are far more interested in what the Von Meer can provide for them in terms of religious conversion and education. As a sign of our good faith, let us tell you that your decision to trust in the Kiwa was a wise one. They are a noble house, and whilst somewhat naive, believe you to be forthright. Handling them correctly will ensure the success of your house. It's been a pleasure.
Indeed it has. I look
The other
forward.
two walk off, leaving you with just that one.
I do appreciate your interest in our situation. I would leave you with one last kernel of knowledge for the great service you have done to House Dargush. The grand lady of the house never acts without the greatest interest of House Dargush at heart and mind.
She has held the seat for 50 years. It is no doubt to us that she is talented and cunning.
So you can be
ally
assured.
And adversary.
You can be assured that if she sends an envoy somewhere, it is with absolute purpose. Good day to you, brother.
And also to you.
And once again, Isaac shifts away into the shadows and starts making his way towards the arenas to see what he can see about the setup for these combat drills, particularly the ones later in the day where Sergeant Gruff may actually be at risk.
Okay, speaking of Sergeant Gruff, over to him and Gretchen, who are paying a little visit too.
Gunricks.
The Gunnaricks.
Mr. and Mrs. Gunnarick.
Gunnaricks, sorry, yeah.
Gunnaricks.
The Gunnaricks quarters have been equipped with small air conditioning units, and they're actually much cooler than the rest of the palace.
There's heat.
The semi-silent whirring of the air conditioning units inside their rooms. There's small boxes, about a foot square.
Did you bring these air with you?
Yeah, these are Gunnaruk's devices. We cobbled them together when we knew we were coming to Arrakis because our home world is a much colder place than this. Not unlike your own, I believe you have a great many arboreal forests, yeah?
Yes, we are mostly a temperate moon with many wonderful trees, but also beaches.
Yes, we are not quite so blessed. The seas on Gunura are quite heavily polluted from our early forays into technology. The chemistry work that we are doing has done some useful things to mitigate this, but obviously there is very little ocean life in the waters.
Well, maybe in future generations you can make reparation to the life on your planet.
Yeah, indeed. Perhaps we will meet another house who have functioning sea life, and we will be able to arrange some kind of transplantation for the creatures.
I wonder if such a house exists. That might be friendly. Wink.
Such a thing would be wonderful. Now, I see you have brought the Bene Gesserit lady with you. Good day to you, madam.
Yes. They were telling me this funny thing yesterday evening, Gretchen. I think you'll be very amused. They were saying that they're soldiers who have a speed-enhancing serum that they can inject themselves in times of need. They were thinking that they might be a match for the Bene Gesserit.
Well, I would not hesitate to say that we are a match at this time. There is a lot of experimentation and comparison work to be done. Obviously, the ladies
Science.
of
Yes.
the Bene Gesserit are reluctant, of course, to engage in such trivial matters since they are working on their great projects.
Indeed.
So, you'll know that today there is to be a series of games and pursuits and proofs of prowess.
Yeah, that's so. We are looking
Yes,
forward to the marksmanship and also to the technical display.
We were wondering, just hypothetically, our troops are more akin to skirmishers and reconnaissance troops. But possibly the treasure hunt might be an opportunity for our two houses to take advantage of each other's skills and benefit therein.
Oh, that's an interesting concept. There's nothing in the invitation which suggests that such a thing would be allowed, but I suppose there's also nothing that says it would not be allowed.
No, there are no rules against it, and therefore it's fine.
So what sort of thing would you suggest? It sounds like you have excellent scouts with you.
We would have the speed and the scouts and the vision, but there may be scientific obstacles or places where ingenuity and craftspersonship might be most needed.
An intriguing suggestion. We also have the access to a number of ornithopters that we could place in the sky above the city and perhaps triangulate. We have actually had a proposal from House Yash to purchase one of our ornithopters just today. Perhaps they're thinking the same thing.
Well, I would say hold off on the sale, and if you prove successful in the treasure hunt, then you could drive up the price.
I find this intriguing. I will take it to the deputy overseer, Lady Clavier, and we will discuss and see what she suggests.
Marvelous.
And milady, would you be willing at any point to come and demonstrate your wielding techniques for the Gunnaruks so that we could measure them?
I have a full schedule with House Dargush today, but perhaps, schedule permitting, this could be arranged.
Wonderful, wonderful. Will you be fighting today?
I'm not here as what would she say? I'm not here as a member of the conflict forces. I'm an envoy to House Dargush.
Of course, the Bene Gesserit have many talents, not just evading combat.
Conflict is my job.
That's all I see. This is a wonderful sticks that you have.
My staff of office, yes, it is shaped in the lantern of House Dargush.
Yes, I can see, for there's a picture of it on your chest.
Yes, very good. You keen scientific mind, I see at work there. Well done.
So, very interesting. That is certainly something we will consider. And I may have a messenger come back to you later today. I am honored that you have come to find me yourself. This is a great burden of trust you place upon me. I am very thankful.
You made a good impression yesterday evening.
Well, perhaps this will also make a good impression. And he reaches into his belt and he pops out a little glass vial. Says, we know that sometimes these sorts of affairs can become a little testy. You know, sometimes there are enemies that we don't see and poisons that we are unaware of. This is a neutralizing accelerant that we have recently devised. It should be proof against most kinds of poison for at least one use. Please take it with my compliments.
Does one take it before one is poisoned or after?
Well, this is the beauty of this. You can take it if you suspect you are about to be poisoned, and if you are poisoned in the next 6 hours, then it will be proof against it. But also you can give it to someone who has been poisoned, and it will immediately go to work on neutralizing the poison.
That is a most charming gift. Thank you.
Well, there are some houses here who are very keen on the use of poisons, so we thought it best to come prepared.
Wise.
We are not a political house. We are a mechanistic and scientific house, but we are not fools.
No.
They are fools. They're going around saying that they could probably beat up a Bene Gesserit. They're stupid. The Bene Gesserit are going to eradicate them.
Is this your inside voice or your outside voice?
This is my inside voice. This is Gretchen's head.
I think you're also getting a translated version of what they said, courtesy of Graf there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're so strong we could beat up the Bene Gesserit.
Fast, I think they said rather than strong.
Fast.
But yes.
Yes. Yes, they are.
Excellent. So
That's Gretchen's opinion. They're fools. They're foolish, and
anything Gretchen wants to do.
Punch someone.
Well, I think she now having heard this from these folks, she wants to because there's a Reverend Mother here on Arrakis, isn't there? In the
Yes, there is. Yeah.
So perhaps I will write a quick missive to my dear friend Margaret, and how would I use the coded dots? How would I use the Bene Gesserit dots? Is that intensive? Is it just the way the
No, it's
pen?
not that intensive at all. It can be as simple as just dots on a piece of paper, or it can be dots placed somewhere that they're going to run their hand across. It can be very discreet.
Yeah.
That's how Lady Margot is able to.
She puts on a leaf, doesn't she?
Yeah, she puts it somewhere where Jessica will find it.
Yeah. But yeah, she's gonna send a note to Margaret, just inquiring if during the day there might be time to catch up, as old friends should, especially as we've been so far apart. But in some way, in the punctuation, in the layout of the love hearts over the letter I, or whatever it is Bene Gesserit friends do.
I love that. Bene Gesserit secret language is actually what 12-year-old girls do in their school books.
Yeah. It's a whole organization of ladies, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah.
I've crocheted you this scarf.
Yeah.
Doesn't that say fuck you?
Probably, yeah. Oh, it's totally accident. I'm just learning. But yeah, in the love hearts over the eyes, or the full stops and the commas, include some Bene Gesserit dots that request the Reverend Mother might be there of some interesting news on a house, kind of thing that needs the attention of a Reverend Mother rather than just a sister, because Gretchen don't do the big thing. She do the punch, and she would like to punch, but she'll probably get in trouble for punching.
Preemptive punching.
Yeah.
So lunchtime rolls around. You've done your little intriguey bits, and your message has been sent.
Mm-hmm.
And you take your lunch out to sit with the troops of the house. You're not the only house that has done that. The Omora and the Kiwa are both out there as well, sat with their troops. The others are not. The troops are all kind of intermingling a little bit, but there's very clear delineation between the cool kids and the nerdy kids, though, and the bully boys and the jocks, if you like. So the Kiwa Inkosi nods to you when he sees you, but he's with his men at the minute, and he's giving them his attention. Yeah, so you all meet up at lunch outside the troop house. You notice there's a new banner hanging in place of where there was a cloak yesterday. There is a stitched banner of House Dargush that someone's put together and is hanging up outside the house.
Gonna hang my jacket on it.
Your men, being pathfinders and scouts, are all sort of sitting around quietly, having quiet interpersonal chats. When they see the command team come out, they all stand to attention, put on a good show.
Isaac would quietly walk around our encampment and and keep his eyes also peeled for any kind of long-range surveillance systems that may be pointed at our camp to try to make sure that we're not being overheard while we have our little lunch date with our troops.
You could spend a couple of points of momentum to get yourself a little sound scrambler, a white noise generator to pop on the table.
Let's do that.
So that
Spend
if
2
anybody
momentum.
were listening in, all they'd get would be like...
Yeah, so Isaac will pull out the small scrambler and put it discreetly down and turn it on, and then nod to Daler and say, "We should be free to talk now, regardless of who might be trying to listen."
Oh, you don't need me to snore this time.
No, Morgan, though, that is almost as effective as this scrambler. So I do appreciate the consideration.
You're very
Snoring isn't really intended as a scrambler. It's more of an annoyance. But
I apologize, sir.
I'll wink at Morgan. And then
I'll be with the men.
I'm gonna do as Morgan gets them into some disciplinary shape. I will wander around and have a chat with each one of them in turn.
Oh, and what do you do? What?
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
I'm
not
a
that sort of thing, but
scout, sir. Yes,
yeah.
yes.
I
Yes.
imagine Daler's actually bothered to learn their names on the way here so that I could come across as suitably charming.
Yeah, he
It's
might be a
really
little bit flash
uncomfortable.
and
Yeah.
a bit of a geezer, but he does strike me as the kind of guy who would learn the names of the people who might die for him.
See, yeah, Morgan's there to sort of be the NCO, getting them all in order, making them stand to attention, discipline, and then I get to swan along as the officer and go, "Oh, it's you. Oh, how are your children?" And, and then wander off, and everyone loves me and hates him.
So you sit with the troops. They're keen. They're not super keen on having a big scrap against some of these houses because they know that some of them are going to fight dirty, and they know that some of them could hand them their asses. They're quite relieved about the Kiwa alliance, and they're happy that you've managed to pull that off, because they know they're going to have to fight them 1v1 and they're going to lose, but they're going to give them a little bit of a good kicking before they lose, is the plan. The men are quietly confident. They're much more confident about coming out on top in the matched pairs.
Yeah.
But the matched pairs competition, as Isaac could probably tell you, is much more about who's made alliances with who than it is about how good your soldiers actually are.
Mm-hmm.
So while you're doing that, Isaac, you notice the Mentat from House Amora is kind of loitering around behind their troop tent near to where your troop tent is. Like he's trying to be noticed, but only trying to be noticed by someone subtle. So Gretchen, you'd probably notice him as well. The others are too busy talking to the troops.
Isaac,
Am I constantly watching, Ben?
You are constantly watching, it's true.
Isaac would go to Morgan and go, "Shall we go greet our friends from House Amora?"
Do you want to meet them up out front or the sneaky one at the back?
I would very much like the two of us to approach in the open, and then perhaps there is a chance that I will disappear while you talk with their sergeant.
Understood.
So you head up to the front of the Omora tent then. It's
Can I take a jug of water with us?
yeah, absolutely.
Pleasantries.
They've actually got a really nice looking meal. Because their house specialization is grain, they're kind of making a bit of a show of their meal. Their soldierly discipline is a bit shit. Their soldiers are clearly more like conscripted farmers. People all have other jobs that they do, and they soldier some of the time. So they're farmers' sons and merchants' sons and things like that. They're doing their stint in the army for the good of the house, and then they'll go back to work for their parents when they get home. And they probably aren't soldiers all year round. So their discipline isn't great, their stance isn't great, but you know, they're solid, they're strong, they've got teamwork rather than discipline going on. They're very easy in each other's company. But when their sergeant sees you approaching, he stands up, brushes his lap off, and says, "Go, attention." And the men all sort of stand up and sort of pull themselves into a ragged formation that straightens up as you get a bit closer.
Permission to approach.
Welcome, friend, welcome. Do join us.
Welcome. We have brought water, as is the practice on Arrakis.
Yes, water. Then please have some of our food. We've got breads and cakes, and you're welcome to join me and the men. As you were, men. And they all kind of sit back down, carry on eating.
At that, Isaac looks, he walks among the men briefly and says hello and thanks them for the food and slowly fades into the background and then slips away to talk to their mentat.
I will fill the foreground, as is the well-practiced routine between Morgan and Isaac.
Their sergeant appears to be a little bit more of a career military man. He's clearly been doing this for a lot longer. He's got proper uniform.
So, how'd you find yourself with these farm boys?
Oh, they're all farm boys where I'm from. I'd be a farm boy if I didn't have 3 older brothers. And the army sorted me out, gave me discipline, gave me structure, did me good. So I try and pass on what I learned to these boys. They're good lads, but they're not soldiers. We're probably not going to last very long this afternoon.
Do you know who you're up against?
Well, it's looking like we've got Von Meer in the first draw.
Oh, they play dirty. Be careful.
Yeah, and I don't like the look of their troll things. Put the willies up the boys a bit. Jongleurs have offered to pair with us. Seems a bit odd because I'd have thought they'd go with the fen rings, but then their soldiers aren't exactly all that. They're like the opposite of my boys. You look across at where the jongleur soldiers are, and they're all kind of lounging with their dress jackets open, and they're drinking wine with their lunch.
French. That's what you're saying.
And dream of it.
Space French, obviously.
So you sit and have a nice chat with the Omora sergeant, and while you're doing that, Isaac slopes off down the back of the tent where their incredibly tall mentat is waiting for you.
I do hope that I am not interrupting your thoughts, my friend.
No, brother, I was hoping that you would make your way here. I was trying to be noticed, but not noticed, if you understand my meaning.
Yes, and you were exactly that. Only a few of us were able to pick up on your interest.
Well, I thank you for your kind words, but I'm an administrator, not a spy. My forte lies in trade and taxation and such things. My representation for the house is here as an analytical aid, but I am very much out of my depth when it comes to matters of spying and Canley and such major house things. As you're probably aware, the Omora live very much on the fringes of space. We're very far away from a lot of places, and were it not for the fact that we have such a high food production, then I doubt we would rate very highly or possibly even be noticed in the Landsrad.
And yet, for what you have, you are well known.
And that is why we wish to speak with you. Your house has comported themselves honorably, and as Sir Quinlan has identified, you have not been cruel or dismissive or unkind. And that means a lot to us as a house. We care for our people, and we care for people who care for our people. We're not here to show off our military might or our technical acumen or anything like that. We're here for two reasons, and two reasons only. We're fascinated by the religion of the Fremen, and we are here to make good on trade. And so I have been instructed to pass on to you an offer for a trading agreement with your house. You are technically adept and your lenses are well known. We are suffering on our homeworld from a light-based problem. The ice is creeping down from the poles, and we wish to put a satellite into orbit that would enable us to melt the ice before it reaches our most fertile farmlands. And in order to equip such a satellite with effective lasers, we would be very interested in working with your technicians to create specialized lenses to focus and direct the energy in such a way that it will melt ice but not damage crops. Your houses are recognized specialists in this field, and in exchange, we would like to offer you an exclusive discounted trade agreement with us for our grain in order to support your population.
That is a very interesting proposal and a very interesting problem to help solve. I have no doubt that House Dargush would happily entertain this deal. We too care greatly for our people, and we respect a house that cares for their people as well. I am sure that we can come to an accord that will be mutually beneficial for both houses now and into the future.
You have our thanks. Please relay this information back to your house and let them make of it what they will. Nothing needs to be finalized here and now. We're more than happy to make a gesture of good faith before we leave. We have a number of shipments on the Highliner that we came in on that can be transferred to any house able to assist us.
You are very generous, and I shall speak directly with Sir Daler concerning your needs, and I am fairly certain, as I have said, that we will be able to find a way to help you help your world.
You're very kind, and I appreciate your discretion and candor. As I say, I'm not an expert in these things. Could you make a communicate and truth roll for me, Aaron?
I can do it.
Grab a momentum.
I will grab a momentum. Two successes. No criticals.
Okay, he's a lot more clued up than he's giving himself credit for, and you suspect that he knows a lot more than he's letting on. He's playing the farm boy mentat, but he wouldn't have trained as a mentat on the farm. He would have trained as a mentat somewhere very much more educated, and is relying on the fact that people assume that all the Omoras are quasi-religious hicks. But the Lord, bless me, sir. Thank you so much for your kindness. Kind of thing. And he knows what he's got to offer, and he knows he's offering you a good deal. So he's probably a lot more switched on than he's saying.
And so Isaac will lean in and go, "You serve your house very well, brother. I am sure you are underselling your own use to Amora."
Well, you're kind to say so.
Kindness never works into the calculations for me, but I do appreciate the verbal sparring. This deal will benefit us both, and so it will benefit both of our houses and all of our people.
He laughs a little bit and nods and sort of disappears into the back of the troop tent.
And Isaac will make his way back around, talk to some of the troops, have a little bit of food, and then head back over to Morgan. Well, Sergeant Graff, I'm a bit weary. I'm going to head back to our own tent and perhaps take a moment in the shade.
Yes, your head gets very hot, I hear. It's all I'm thinking.
I am sure it is something.
I find it's my fists that get hot.
Gretchen, is there anything you want to do while the boys are all playing at subtlety for lunch?
Has our kitchen contact? The whole point of lunch out here was that we could introduce her to.
She served us.
To Dayla.
Yes, she is indeed serving you your meal and bringing the food out. There are a number of servants from the kitchen who are bringing food out to you. She has clearly taken the lead on that group of servants.
Mm-hmm.
So you are introduced to a blue-eyed young lady.
Do we have like a tent, like a less, like, I know we're having food on the lawn kind of situation, but
well, it's right out front of your troop tent where the men are sleeping.
It's a place where they're sleeping. It's probably stinky.
Well, they're not sleeping now, but yeah, it'd probably be a bit stinky.
Yeah, mind you, she's a Fremen, so she's probably used to stinky stitches.
Also true.
However, I will say, Lord Dayla, Nobleborn,
Yes.
this is the young individual who provided us with the apricot yesterday. I thought you might wish to thank us. Such a gift on Arrakis is hard to come by. Such a succulent fruit is difficult to find.
Definitely. I am very grateful for such a fruit, especially as I'm rather fond of apricots myself, and I didn't expect to be able to find some so swiftly, easily here on
the
Arrakis.
apricots are grown in our siege, and our siege remembers the time when House Dargush spent some time on Arrakis. We have kept some treasures in trust for you and look to rekindle our former close alliance.
Well, I think whilst we're here, I mean, we'd definitely like to see what treasures we might have left behind last time. Also, I think it's customary to exchange gifts here on Arrakis of water, is it not?
Not with me, my lord. I am simply a messenger. Perhaps there is someone you could speak to who would be interested if such a meeting could be arranged. I believe that tomorrow you are going out into the desert for what these water fat wastrels call a hunt.
A hunt?
The Harkonnen scum are taking you out to hunt Shai Hulud tomorrow to display their martial prowess. Forgive me, my lord, the worms of the deep desert. There is to be a hunt tomorrow to show off the military prowess of House Harkonnen by tracking and killing one of the great worms of Arrakis.
Well, House Dargush tends towards only hunting that which we need for any reason.
So we understand it, and so it always was when you were here before. Going out into the desert would give you an opportunity to meet with a more highly ranked representative of the siege, someone who could put you in touch with higher powers and greater treasures.
Certainly. However, I would like to express my gratitude for this meeting beforehand. Is there somewhere we could deposit our gift? And I'm thinking of sending our good friend Wyoming out again with a big old crate of water.
Your man in town yesterday, he knew
Yeah.
the old signs, he spoke to the right people. We were pleased. Perhaps if you were to send him, maybe under cover of the treasure hunt that is being proposed for this evening, our people will be grateful to receive him.
Yes.
There is a
That
place in
could
the
be
old market,
arranged.
a statue of one of the old prophets. The head has been removed by the Harkonnen, but our people still revere it. If he were to make his way there, someone will be able to receive him.
Yes, I think we can definitely arrange that.
Okay, from outside, you hear a gong, very loud gong. And as you make your way outside, you can see that up on the balcony outside one side of the estate, you've got the Baron Harkonnen, his nephew, Lord and Lady Fenring. And there's a little loudspeaker box positioned there. Guests, visitors, friends, thank you all for coming today and for putting yourselves and your men forward for such tests of skill as we have time to demonstrate. The marksmanship contest will begin momentarily. If you could please have your sharpshooters report to the range, we will be happy to equip them and have them ready to begin.
Are we taking part in the marksmanship?
No, but whilst that's going on, I would like to send our sneaky mentat out to round up the rest of our erstwhile allies. And I think the idea would be to form a little bit of an alliance for the treasure hunt.
Well, at this point, the other noble houses are starting to fill the covered stands on either side of the marksmanship area that's been set up. And members of several of the houses are heading over and picking up long rifles that are waiting there for them. So the Harkonnens are there, the Mauritani are there. Thorvald's aren't. They've declined to participate. There's a Fenring marksman, Jungler marksman. There is a Taisheng marksman. The Von Mir are not participating in this either, nor are the Yash. There is very definitely a Kiwa and a couple of other Kiwa troops who have got bruising. Looks like there may have been a discussion as to who got to represent who in what.
There is no point fighting amongst each other on a day of fighting others.
And there is a Gunaruk's representative as well.
Ooh.
But if you're not going to participate, that's absolutely fine.
No, I'd like to position us near the Kiwa, not the people shooting, but
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
we're sauntering over, as we're making our way to cast disdain upon this event and know that we are better, might I suggest, and I don't know whether Gretchen would, but it's a thing that could, like, if the farm boys are truly terrible soldiers, but we want to at least offer them support in a way, could we do a cultural exchange? Like in the next half hour, and at least, give them one of our not so very great skirmish guys and take one of their rubbish lads, and then at least they're not totally crap and we've given them a little bit of a
yeah.
boost. Would that be a or not?
During the course of the afternoon, yeah, definitely, because I'd like to build up towards pulling them into the to this idea of a little alliance.
So you want to secrete one of our troop in amongst the Hicks?
Well,
Is that what you're suggesting?
Just often a good troop or two in the battle can help direct those who are less competent.
So you want to lend them like a corporal?
Yeah, but do it under the guise of like a cultural exchange. So, obviously it's hinky if we just give them someone and be like, no, this is a cultural exchange. He's working for them now. He is technically their house as is the custom and the rights and the forms of the land shroud and that kind of thing, in order to secure trading as you would, like an hostage heir to ensure that things are done properly. A hostage corporal to ensure we get wheat.
Yeah, maybe, something that they're not particularly good at, but we have someone who's not the worst at, but we'll give them that level higher.
Not suggesting that the corporal or whoever we send will make them win, but at least they won't get their asses kicked.
Position them,
and at least they'll leave with a feeling of like, oh, okay, we could, that kind of thing.
Dayla will definitely be down for that idea.
That is what you wish. Then it will be so. Do you wish that for the one-on-one or for also the pairs? Because they are pairing with the jongleurs, and I do not trust the jongleurs.
Oh no, we're definitely not going to...
No, if they've got help with the jongleurs, then that's fine.
I just like one of the single man skirmish rounds. I think we can offer them like maybe even marksmanship if they don't have a decent marksman.
And then
we can offer them someone who'll get them a couple of places higher on the ranking in the end. And they're happy, we're happy. We didn't participate anyway, so we don't lose anything.
But then this guy is going to be their mate because he's helping them. And then he can also chat and find out.
We're also their friends.
But the guy that we send will be able to get because he's one of our guys, so he'll be a sneaky bastard. He can then maybe find out a bit about the junglers and what's going on there. Maybe.
Okay, if one of you diplomatic folk would like to make the overture to the head of the house, I will go select one of the troop.
I will go if you want.
You are the envoy.
Yeah, I am the envoy.
Bring up the lenses maybe, and then suggest it as a first sort of meeting arrangement. As I assume by this point, Isaac has informed me. Yeah,
I would have immediately come back and given you the whole skinny on the potential deal.
Sneaky bastard is literally the talent or statement that all of our troops have.
Right, I'm going to take a quick break at that point. Please don't go away. We'll be back in a few moments after a momentary not sitting in the cupboard for a few seconds break.
Wow,
I know,
sounds
right?
Amazing.
There may be a little bit of human admin that needs to take place as well. So bear with us. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Billy, do the thing.
All right, I'll do the thing.
Hello, we're back. It's getting a bit warm in the world building cupboard this evening. I had not planned for ventilation because I had it all put in the depths of winter when actually wanting to be warm was a thing.
Have you thought about putting less suns when you build solar systems?
Clearly what I need to do, smaller suns or further away. Anyway, the gong had been rung, the marksmanship contest had begun, and you weren't participating in it. So you were just witnessing.
And while you're witnessing in the troop,
you have shooters, yeah. I thought-
is our worst marksman better than the farm boy marksman?
They are
I mean-
also not participating in the marksmanship contest.
True, yeah.
The only people
Well,
who
we
are
could
for the
suggest-
marksmanship are Harkonnens, Moritani, Jongleurs, Taisheng, Kiwa, and Gunnaruks.
I mean, Morgan, you'd probably be pretty good. I mean, your battle's 8 and your power's probably what, 7 or 8?
8.
So I mean, it's a 16 base.
Not too shabby.
Range is not really. I mean, I could.
Yeah.
You're right. I could throw
It
my hammer at
ricochets
them.
and takes out the Vomir.
Well, accidents do happen.
Oops.
So,
If you wish me to volunteer for a different house, then, well, I don't know.
the
Someone else read the
marksmanship
rules.
competition begins. And in the first round, it's Harkonnen shooting against Moritani. And it ends with a Harkonnen victory.
We clap sarcastically.
The second contest is Jongleurs versus Taisheng. Rather unsurprisingly, ends with a Taisheng victory. The Kiwa are shooting against the Gunnaruks.
Oh.
And it's actually fairly close, but the Kiwa narrowly win. It's by
Oh.
fractions of a point rather than a whole point
Yeah.
or anything. It's the closest of the battles that have gone so far. So
I
the
will
Gunnaruks are
congratulate
also
my
moved
counterpart
forward
then.
into the next round. However, the Gunnaruks in the next round are shooting against the Harkonnens.
Uh-oh.
And so the Harkonnens move on as well. The Taisheng shooting against the Kiwa. Again, quite a closely fought thing.
I use my... no.
Save it.
The Kiwa win.
There you go. That's why.
Have
So the
faith in your
final
allies.
fight, again, it's quite a close one thing. It's getting closer. The final shooting match is the Harkonnen versus the Kiwa. And the Harkonnens kind of smashed them on that one.
Home advantage.
Yeah,
Oh.
home field advantage.
Turn to my counterpart and say, well, you put up a impressive display there.
We were
Oh.
lucky that we did not come up against some of the other houses earlier. Had we been up against the Taisheng in the first round, things would have been a little more complex.
They did indeed appear to have some very good shooters. Still, should you be willing or looking for a little bit of, we won't call it vengeance on the Harkonnens later on.
We will teach
I
them a
may
lesson,
have-
my friend, in the troop combat.
Isn't it curious how
I
accurate the
may have
Jongleurs?
something else to
Sorry.
suggest as well.
It's curious to me, to Gretchen. It's curious to me how accurate the Jongleurs were at dinner last night. Yet they lost today. Surely a troop with such accuracy should take that onto a competition in this manner. What's amiss?
Maybe they do not wish to be seen as competent.
I think they might be saving it for something that they feel fits their role more.
And
Jongler
Assassination.
troop
And-
come out and perform while the marksmanship contest is tabulated and finished up, and the marksmen all returned to their units. So there's a little bit
I
of
stand
Jongler
in front of the
performance.
Sir Daler while they're performing. 'cause-
Just in case there's any more thrown daggers.
Yep.
But Dana
Shield
really
on.
wants to grab one.
Everybody knows that about Dalen now, though.
Yep.
Sorry.
The next combat is troop versus troop. So, Morgan, you're leading this one.
Oh, right.
Have we had opportunity to make a cultural exchange?
It's a little bit too late in the day
Oh, okay.
to be doing it now.
Well, I think we would probably do it for something a bit further up rather than this
Yeah,
part.
they might appreciate it more after, while you won't help them win anything.
We will, because
They may
we're
be
going to have a
interested
chat
afterwards.
with them.
And
For
Isaac will lean in to talk to quickly to Gretchen and Morgan and Sir Daler and be, remember, my friends, a martial victory is not necessarily what we may want in each one of these competitions. It is a political victory that we truly should have our eyes on.
I would definitely say, should you come up against the Kiwa, Morgan, give them a fair fight. Everyone else, we always fight sideways.
We will play to our strengths, Sir Daler.
Because they are both great houses, the Thorvald and the Harkonnen and the Moritani are kind of pitted against one another in the first round. The Fenring also joined them because they're an imperial house, and it would appear that some of the Fenring troops may have been trained on Seleucus Secundus, because they absolutely trounced the Thorvald troops in the first round. That's a minor house beating a great house, which is possible, but not likely. The Harkonnens take the Moritani again. And then it's Jongleurs versus the Kiwa. And the Kiwa absolutely own that.
Yay!
Well, the Jongleurs dance around, but they're clearly second-rate soldiers. They might be good killers, but good fighters, but they're not good soldiers. They don't work together well.
I will stand impassively while the troop behind me cheers.
Taisheng versus the Gunnaruks come up, and you can see that, again, Taisheng might be good killers, but they're not good soldiers. And the Gunnaruks take that battle as well. The Gunnaruks seem to fight very similarly to the Harkonnens. They go for heavy troops, big weapons, armor, and they take hold, take hold, take hold. So they are heavy troops.
Are they with their chemical enhancements? Are they? That's the right one, the Gunnaruks, isn't it?
Yes, the Gunnaruks are the ones with the chemical enhancements. And
when
they do use them, you can tell that they've been used, because the troops that they're fighting against go flying. It clearly makes a significant boost to their strength and reaction time. That you can see as that they don't all use it in the troop battle. Because when they're coming off the field, they are clearly still wired. Some of their troops are led away to pace.
As I'm going to potentially be having a bit of an argy-bargy with one of these folk later, can I perhaps pay special attention to them with the possibility of gaining or creating some sort of advantage later? Is that a thing I could do?
Yes, if you make a battle and truth roll.
Battle and truth. Ooh, what's that? That is 13. What have I got? My statement is, if I do not know it, it is relevant. Is that appropriate? Or
this is about you knowing something rather than you not knowing something, though.
My focuses are short blades and weirding way, so I don't think those will be right. Okay, so 13 then. 13. Let me roll 2 20s again. What do I get? Oh, no, I get 1 success. I get a 4 and then a 16. So 1 success. And we'll bank that knowledge later, perhaps.
You would guess that the best way to beat these guys is to outlast the chemical effect.
Okay.
Now, you're not sure how long that lasts, but it does look like not all the troops used it in this fight. So It may either be short-lived or it may have long-lasting side effects.
Okay.
Stay mobile.
I'll bank that for Bene Gesserit knowledge later.
Next up, it's House Vonmir versus House Yash. And House Vonmir kind of clear the field of the Yash. They might be analysts, but they're not soldiers. And the Vonmir servitors are brutal. They're quite savage creatures when they're unleashed. A sort of contemporary take on it would be that there's a lot of a sort of Frankenstein model to them. They unleash this short burst of ultra violence and then just kind of stop and wait for orders again.
So tactically, is there a weakness? Because
Yes.
Morgan will also be viewing each one of these opponents as, well, as an opponent.
You too can make a battle and truth roll and see if you can work out a weakness in the Vonmir
Battle and
servitors.
truth. I don't think any of my focuses help here. That's a shame. Why does it have to be truth? That's a no, and that's a yes. One success.
They're not creative. They are very, very direct. You point them at things and say go, and then you stand well back. They're like the blue touch paper and retire troop. They lack sophistication.
So
Okay.
have to be commanded. So in that instance, in between, you can overwhelm them.
Well,
Equally-
and also bait and switch.
Yeah, troops
can
that aren't
attract them.
standing in front
Yeah.
of them will confuse them.
Isaac leans into Sir Daler and says, "It was the Mentats of House Yash that I had a conversation with earlier today. The fact that Von Meer was so willing to brutalize their forces may allow us greater opportunities with this house of statisticians. We should leverage that, perhaps this evening."
You are then drawn,
So many
Morgan,
friends.
against the O'Mara house,
Oh.
I'm afraid. So it's you versus the O'Maras.
All right, chaps. Chapesses. Troop. Don't be gentle, don't be cruel.
Don't
So
come
how do
at
you want
them
to play
straight
this?
on.
Do you want to try and go for a quick, decisive victory, or do you want to let them get in a bit of a showing first? Do you want to play it safe and let them come to you, or do you want to blitzkrieg?
Don't show off.
I don't think we really blitzkrieg. I think we will probably be more defensive than we would usually be.
Okay.
Look to lure them in, feint and flank.
Okay, what
I
are you
think-
rolling?
Do we have to beat them to the ground? Does it capture the flag? What is the scenario?
It's a beat them. You don't have to beat them unconscious. You pretty much have to at least tag all of their troops to the degree that they're out.
Okay.
It's not like leap forward and go, bonk, you're out. There is blades and guns and things like that involved, but you're also allowed body shields. Some houses have gone for first blood. Some houses have gone for put them on their backs. So the Von Meer victory was a put them on their backs victory. They steamrolled their opposition.
My basic instructions to the troop will be lure them in, keep the center busy, flanks, see if you can take out their command. Then let them
Righty.
crumble. Do not humiliate them.
Okay, what are you rolling?
Battle. I'm gonna go with justice, actually.
So, yeah.
Plus my statement around justice is everyone deserves a fair chance.
Counts. If
So
you're fighting fairly, that counts.
for the O'Mara, I'm going to give them a fair chance. We're still going to win, but I'm going to give them a fair chance.
Going to give them a showing so that, they have a bit of...
Yes. I do also have a focus in dirty fighting, but I don't think that quite works. But I do have bludgeoning.
Okay, make your roll for your troop.
Make my roll. Doobity-doo. That's 2 successes.
So it starts out quite well. They engage your center line as you wanted them to, but they actually engage quickly and quite ferociously. They throw themselves at you in a wedge, thinking that they've got to get a quick victory. So you're actually drawing at first. They've moved their assets into one of your zones. Your assets have dispersed as you wanted. So your center line is keeping their assets busy, but they are being pressed. Your flankers have started to move, but because of the speed of their attack, your guys are a little bit wrong-footed because you're trying to fight fairly. Now, they're not being vicious, but they have clearly adopted the get stuck in, give it all you've got. If you've got car keys, get them in your fingers, go windmilling in.
Okay.
So in the first few seconds of combat, they stack your center line, your skirmishers break away. What's your next move?
Is the, just so I'm clear, because I'm not quite visualizing this properly, possibly. Is Morgan there, or is Morgan
Can be
directing?
a part of this conflict, yes. You can be at the sidelines shouting like a football manager, or you can be in the mosh like a team captain.
I think if I see that the center line is, I don't think they're buckling at this point, but maybe
they're not
they could use
buckling,
some
but they
support.
are pressed.
Then I will step in and kind of command the troop to part, and I will step into the center and start swinging.
Okay, well, they're using pole weapons because clearly they've adapted farm weapons for use, but these aren't like,
Good
it's
troops.
not like hoes and forks and things. These are halberds, but these are guys who are more used to using farm equipment, so they've made them weapons that suit that. So you step into the breach, and
I will
continue trying to push. So make your roll again, and we'll see how the assets are affected here.
Okay. Justice in battle once more, I think. This time with bludgeoning. So that's... If I have a focus, what's the crit range?
It is whatever your focus
Anything below
level is.
Skill, yeah, below your skill level.
Okay, in that case, 2 critical thingies.
2 successes. Okay, I doubt they'll be able. No, they're not. They get 1 success in this conflict. So while they are continuing to deal attrition to the center line, your skirmishers have now gone around the back and take out their commanding officer.
Can we save momentum in battle as well?
Yes.
Yes, you can.
Because you got 2 criticals, didn't you?
Yeah.
So then we beat them 3. Well, we
3
have
to
3
1.
spare. Yeah.
So 1 to beat them.
Yeah.
1 to capture their commander. You've got a spare.
Yeah.
So that goes into
we
the
can
momentum
bank.
pool.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Because we keep forgetting that.
That's why you're the heir.
And while the skirmish is going on, Isaac is paying particular attention to the houses that have aligned against House Dargush, seeing how they're reacting to the combat.
And Morgan is just laughing his head off.
He smacks people.
Okay, third and final roll then. They only get 1 dice this time because their commander is out of action. You still get your full dice pool.
I'm going to intimidate. I'm going to command them to stand down.
Yield.
You have fought honorably. Your commanders have fallen. It is time to yield the field.
Go for it.
Going to go with communicating power on that one. because I have the power. I got the power. Oh, that's a crit, and that's not. So 1 critical success.
Ooh.
They did not succeed at all. It's my first 20.
Complication.
Complication.
Complications.
So their front line buckles at the sight of this military hero stood in the midst of them, shouting in their faces while waving a big club round.
It's the hat, isn't it? It's
Their
the hat.
front line buckles, and they kind of fall over each other a little bit.
That's a bit embarrassing.
It is a bit embarrassing. And the complication that they got is that they've kind of humiliated themselves a little bit. They are aware that you haven't humiliated them. They're kicking themselves. So they're feeling their sort of positive vibe goes down. They don't improve in their relationship to you, but you have won the round.
Isaac.
We should have picked up 1 extra momentum in that round too.
Okay, I will believe you.
If there's some sort of trumpet that signals the end, once that's sounded, I will get the troop to help
They do.
Amara back to their
straight
feet
away.
and
They're ready to do that because you
dust them
told them
down.
to do it honorably. So they're pulling their opposition up off the ground, helping them get their weapons back in hand, shaking hands, patting them on the back, that kind of thing.
And I will
Nothing like the way the Von Meer won.
I will go personally salute their commander.
Yeah. Zach, can you convey our respects on how honorably they fought on the field?
Of course, Sir
And
Dela.
I'm also going to pass him a little note with an overture for perhaps teaming up later on in the treasure hunt.
Their commanding officer hands you his sidearm, Morgan.
A generous and gracious gift. My thanks.
It's a subtle way of him showing that he knows that you could have crushed them utterly, but you gave them a fair shout. And your fight was actually the longest out of all of them so far. The second round, it's the Fenrings versus the Harkonnens. And there's a lot of sort of feinting and poking at each other and who's going to give first. And you can kind of tell that the Fenrings threw this one. I mean, they put up a bit of bravado, but they folded like a house of cards when the Harkonnens made a push. Fenrings aren't natural soldiers, but the Harkonnens take the field again. Kiwa versus the Gunnaruks.
Interesting.
That's a brutal fight. There are big punches thrown on both sides. It does get down to hand. So while they enter with guns and then switch to swords, by the end of it, there's wrestling happening in the field. And it ends with the last of the Kiwas throwing down the last of the Gunnaruks. And again, you notice, Gretchen, that only half of the Gunnaruks that were in that fight used their enhancements.
Okay.
So it's clearly not something that they can use willy-nilly.
Sure. Okay.
At the end of that, I'm going to turn to my Quinoa counterpart again and say, that was a impressive show. How do you feel about the Gunruks?
Who are you talking to, sorry?
We're standing next to the Quinoa delegation.
The
So that I
Nkosi
can
looks to you, he
smooth-
says,
yeah, the Nkosi.
they are
that's
too
it.
reliant on their technology, but they fight well. Some
Their
of these
technology.
fighters are dirty fighters. They are not honorable men. These Gunnaruks, for all of their chemistry and science, they fought well. I respect a man who will go to the ground for wrestling to finish a battle.
Well, talking about that, their technology might come in handy later on in the treasure hunt. If we only had a respectable bulwark of troops on our side that could
Are you suggesting another alliance?
It seems like the day for it.
We will watch the rest of the battles with close care and see who we approve of for this.
Oh, that means
Oh,
I have to be
not.
honourable for the rest of the time.
The bad news there is that
Eyeing my
that
thumbs
means
together.
that the
Yeah, I
two
know.
previous rounds winners who are currently facing off against one another is House Dargush and House Vonmir.
Mm.
And you can see that the Taisheng and the Yash are positively beside themselves watching this, and the Harkonnens are practically salivating at the idea.
All right, troop. I'm going to brief them on the servitors, or at least as much as we know. They take instruction. They only follow those orders. So, where possible, bait and switch.
So we're doing a complete reverse of the tactics from the last round then, Chief.
Yep.
No
What would be
holding the
really...
line. Anybody
No.
gets near us, break and run, let someone else
Stay
take 'em.
mobile. Those of you that have sharpshooting skills, stay long distance, snipe those giving the instructions to the servitors. What would be the most funny is if we can get the servitors to fight each other.
See what we can do, Chief.
Don't risk your limbs to make that happen.
All right, dice up then,
I
Alden.
feel like someone should give Morgan momentum for that.
Yeah. I think you should use a momentum for an extra dice so you can get extra successes.
Okay.
This is House Dargush versus Vonmir. We have to.
I'm going
true,
with the
actually.
massive D20 for this one.
As
And
am I.
Isaac will speak with Sir Daler. He goes, "Do you wish me to take the field in a uniform to watch Sergeant Graff's back to ensure that he survives this encounter?"
As usual, your observations are astute. It's probably a good idea for this fight that we make sure they don't use their usual methods of bypassing our strengths.
Boss, I've got a Dargush t-shirt on under my ABBA robe. Can I go play? Oh, I shouldn't. Like, the whole point of Gretchen.
versus skins.
Yeah, the whole point of Gretchen is she's not supposed. Nobody's supposed to know until she's punched them in the face.
I'll hand Gretchen. I assume I have one of those hats as well that sort of pull down and
I would
have
imagine
ears
so.
and stuff.
Yeah.
I'll hand Gretchen one of those hats. If you really want to, I certainly won't stop you.
No, I won't. It's fine.
So Isaac is taking the field, so he'll be able to offer you a dice. You're using a point of momentum, so that gets you a dice. I'm
Yep.
going to use a point of threat because it's House Vonmir versus
Yes.
House Dargush.
Fair.
I would like to use my point of determination, since my since my statement in duty is I will protect the House Dargush even from themselves. I think that goes within my drive statement.
Seems
And
fair.
I would use my point of determination to give Sergeant Graff an automatic 1 on one of his dice.
Nice.
Wow.
So you're
I'm-
starting with 2 successes and rolling
Yeah.
3 dice on top of that.
Yes.
Right.
I'm going to stand close enough that I can shout if necessary, and people might hear me.
Okay, let's pray we don't get 20s. Right, well,
All
battle
ones.
and power, frankly, because this is all about winning and focusing dirty fighting, because this is not going to be clean.
I'm going
They
to
do.
wink at the whatever he is of House Vonmir as it kicks
Vonmir.
off.
I believe Vonmir have sent the Narbaron.
Yeah,
Crate
yeah.
Vonmir.
Yeah.
These
That's
big grey-skinned. They look like turbo-enhanced wrestlers. They've got these massive slabs of muscle, and their arms are longer than they should be.
knuckle scrapers.
So how'd you do, Alden?
I got 2 normal successes and 1 crit.
So that's
So 4.
4 successes.
4
And then
successes
the other one,
plus the other
6.
crit, 6
6.
successes. That's good because I got 3 successes. And your prediction was spot on, Isaac. Your determination was very well placed at that point. They're commanded to take out Morgan Graff. These servitors just all bear down on him. Now, not all of their troops are these servitors. Some of them are regular soldiers. And the regular soldiers kind of fan out and start taking pot shots at your men while the servitors bear down on you at maximum speed. But you got 3 successes. So how are you going to move, adjust, and defeat them in this round?
Surprising. Morgan is surprisingly nimble. As a focus in moving swiftly. So I would actually, with my 3 successes, like to get these servitors to run into each other, to stand my ground, position myself, just get the angles right so that as they meet, I'm not there.
Okay, I like it. So we're looking at 1 success then for the bait and switch maneuver that you were talking about before. Your men they're not fighting in a conventional way. They switch to guerrilla tactics and they're darting about all over the place, taking pot shots at the soldiers, shooting at the legs of the servitors. The servitors are equipped with half shields, but the half shields are on their fronts.
So get behind.
Rather than on one side or the other. And when your men work this out, they're able to start taking pot shots at the backs of their legs, which winds them right up. So you've got 1 for the bait and switch. You've got 1 for the antagonizing of the servitors. And then for your final victory success is you dropping out just as the 2 of them crash into each other. And you do actually deliver a humiliating defeat to Von Meer in a single round by switching your tactics. So Von Meer have watched your previous battle, seen you hold the line, seen you adopt a defensive technique, assumed you're going to do the same thing again, and by baiting them and switching with it, they've attacked a fixed line that is suddenly fluid and tried to take out a static target that's suddenly mobile. And their greatest strength has become their greatest weakness.
Yes.
So the Von Meer servitors crash into each other and go to the ground in a tangle of limbs with their shields fritzing as you're no longer there. Your men running all over the place have taken out the rest of their soldiers. And you've beaten Von Meer in the most decisive victory anybody's had in this round.
I will bow to Sir Daller. Your victory for the house.
I will salute with my knife from the quinoa.
Ooh.
At that point, you realize that Isaac is behind Daler now. He goes, that was a most excellent match. Well fought.
It does mean that in the next match, you're up again straight away afterwards, and they're putting you up against the Kiwa.
Ooh.
I'm gonna shake my counterpart's hand before we start.
So am I.
It says, we will fight honorably like warriors.
And I'll nod at Graf, who
Would you
knows
like-
what to do anyway.
Someone send that memo to Morgan. We will fight honorably.
Our troop have had a run around in the heat. Maybe a battle of champions would be preferable.
What do you say?
I would agree with you, but I do not think they will allow it. This is a troop round.
Well,
Once we are on the sands, the rules are ours to make.
Ah, a noble proposition, sir. Very well. Do you fight?
If you will have me.
Then you will fight my champion.
You honor us.
And his war master takes off his jacket, slaps on a half shield, and heads out onto the sands to join his troops. He says,
Morgan's actually going to stretch for this one.
this is Swordmaster Aki, and he's enormous. He's nearly 7 feet tall, and he has the grace of a panther. He also does a little bit of stretching.
Mostly flexing, isn't it?
There's a lot of flexing, pre-game flex. The Kiwa troops all line up and bang their knives against they have a metal bit on their breastplate, which could be for armor, but is more than likely for banging knives against.
It's percussion, yes.
And so that they do a hoo hoo kind of thing.
Troop, sing me that forest song your mother's taught you.
No, not that song. As public relations envoy, no, Morgan, not that song.
Dayla
Okay,
will start
hoots like
whistling it
marsupials, that'll do.
Like the hats that you're wearing.
We just got raided by Infinite Monkey Tails with
Hi,
19
Infinite Monkey
people.
Tails. Thank you for your raid.
Wow.
And thank you, people, for
Yeah.
coming on over. We're just about to have a big battle between the 2 honourable people in our Dune game.
Two most
Well.
honourable people.
Honourable, absolutely, yes.
And his
Is
troops
Morgan the
line up
honourable
against your
person?
troops on opposite sides of the field. They give you a few minutes to catch your breath, bang their shoulders, hoo, hoo, and all charge at your men. What are you going to do?
They all charge.
Yep, they all
Yeah.
charge.
All of them.
Yep, all of them.
Stand to ground. Shields on.
Your men stand their ground, shields on, and as they run towards you, daggers out, they pull up about a person's length away from your troops. Every single one of them stops in lockstep, claps their dagger up against the shoulder, goes, "Hoo!" And their swordmaster finally closes with you, slams into you at speed.
I've got my shield on.
Let's have it. How have you got 5 bloody momentum and I've only got 1 threat?
Chat like us.
Honestly.
I keep doing well.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
chat and
Come on then.
If he
let's
does
have it.
badly,
What
I'll
you
give
doing?
you some threat.
might spend some momentum, team. Is that all right?
Yes,
I think you
absolutely.
should. Yeah.
I'm going to attempt to take his legs out from under him.
You could spend 3 momentum and get 2 extra dice.
Oh yeah.
He's not wrong.
Seems
Yeah. Go for it.
excessive, but all right.
Yeah.
So that's 4 dice?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Just battle and power. I'm just going to bludgeon him.
So you're going for the knee and trying to reduce his mobility because he is a Guinness swordmaster.
Yeah, I
Now-
need to slow him down.
Now
'cause
he tells us.
I'm not that
I
fast.
told
and
you
he's-
last week.
Oh,
Yeah, he did. He did.
He was introduced as one.
Oh, okay.
He's taller. He has the speed and grace, and I have a big club, so
Yeah.
I need to slow him down.
You're the staff officer.
I have the staff. Yes, exactly. Okay. Many successes, please. Oh, that's 1 crit.
Nice.
That's a success. That's another crit, and that's another success. So
6.
6. Okay, he has 3. So
uh-huh.
you still win, outrageously so. You take out his leg. So as he crashes into you, you kind of drop into a defensive stance, bring the club low into his feet. He tries to jump over it. But as he does so, you change the angle so that it crashes into his feet while he's jumping. And it sweeps him off the ground and onto the floor. You've still got 2 successes that you can spend on putting him down. What do you want to do?
Thank them and step back.
He gets
So
to his
ba-
feet again, claps his dagger on his shoulder, drops into a defensive stance, and nods.
So we're back to 4 momentum then.
Yeah.
And then we start circling each other, I imagine.
Well, he's done an attack on you. He's leaving himself defensive for you to make an attack on him. He's clearly adopted some kind of warrior's code thing. You know, I went first, now it's your turn.
That's nice. Morgan's not really good at this honourable crap.
Yeah, it is a little bit confusing for Morgan because you kind of want to get in there and hit him in the face with a bottle. But you know that would probably upset Dayla.
All I've got is a massive mace. I would say so. A little bit of fancy footwork, some probing with the pointy end of the mace, and then a quick flip and a lateral swing around the midsection.
Okay,
I'll
go
work my
for
way
it.
up him, kind of thing. I'm going to spend one more momentum. Another dice. Is that how that works?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you should have three dice.
And
Yeah.
I have 3.
Nobody knows what that noise
It's making
meant.
velociraptor noises.
No, that was the noise of me making a bad dice roll.
Oh, okay, that's good. Because I've got 2 crits and a success.
Wow.
5.
He got a crit and a fail, so
Ooh, what happens then?
you crash your mace into his torso. He clearly had expected this blow and he's angled himself so that his shield is there to catch it. And the shield does catch it, but he wasn't quite expecting the mace to be as heavy as it is. So while the shield catches the blow, it still hammers into him and sends him flying, puts him down on the ground again.
You could always also spend one of your extra successes to remove his asset from the battle, so disarm him.
You could take his dagger, you could crush his shield with that blow.
Crush
if you
his
wanted to.
shield.
Mm.
Fritz his shield out with the strength of the blow.
Yeah, so his shield is fritzed. He stands up, shakes himself, rubs his side a little bit, and draws his Ginaz blade into his hand and goes for you again.
He'll adopt a defensive stance.
Okay. Last round. Let's see how we do.
Did we bank any momentum from that one? Sorry, or did we spend it all?
Yeah, we should have got 1 extra momentum.
There you
We
go.
should be back up to 4.
There we go.
Good.
Okay.
I'm glad other people are keeping count.
So you're going to
Have it
spend that
Did you good this
momentum.
week?
I am the Mentat after all.
Momentat. Yes.
By will alone, I set my mind in motion.
Yeah, I might just spend it for my defensive roll.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it.
And we've got 4, so you could spend 3 and get 2 extra dice. It is the last round.
Yeah.
We have got another one coming after this, though. So, go on,
Yeah,
spend it.
but
Spend it.
Do it.
Risk it for the biscuit. Okay. Don't know what that is. That's a no. That's a yes. It's a crit. Oh, that's a crit. Oh, look at that. Oh, this is fun. I got 5.
Wow, he got 4. I was like, I've got you this time, sunshine.
Oh.
But he got 4 and you got
Actually,
5.
Nearly gets me. Whoa!
So you swing, and you said you were working your way up his body, and you go high. Yeah. He blocks your blade with dagger and Ginaz's sword, but his block isn't enough. The weight of the mace pushing down scratches a line down his cheek.
Oh.
Oof.
So, you know, the blows that you're trading here are just insane. You're throwing back these massive hits. He's using this insane levels of grace and power to block and parry. Nobody should have been able to parry that blade. That was a killing strike on 99% of the galactic population. And this guy's walking away with a scratch down there. But you take the field.
Mark of honor. I will salute.
He sheaths his Ginaz blade, cuts his thumb on it as he does so, salutes you back, bows, and his men walk off the field. And there's some booing from the jongleurs and the Harkonnens.
Mark that.
Because it was supposed to be a troop fight. and it didn't happen. Beowulf says, I have all of Ben's groats, so really he's buying you this momentum.
I will point the end of my mace at the jongleurs as I walk out.
Which means that the last fight is coming up, and it's House Dargush versus House Harkonnen.
That's not what I wanted.
We're going to win this one. No.
Politically, do you want me to win this one?
I want you to put a good show on. I don't necessarily want you to win this one.
How the Harkonnen fights, have they been just efficient, or have they been
They're very
brutalizing?
efficient. They're fairly brutal.
Mm.
They also do a take and hold battle formation. They advance, capture, move, advance, capture, move. Same as the Gunnaruks did.
I think we should, so I believe we should focus on making sure that all of our troops and our sergeant survive this encounter more than win this encounter.
That would be my priority. I feel that honor has been satisfied.
Winning this encounter is definitely not something we should do. After all, the Harkonnen are our hosts. But I would like you to lead them for at least a merry dance for a round or so.
That we can certainly do.
After all, if they come forward to take and hold ground, that leaves a lot of space behind them.
I like the way you think. It is one thing to take ground, it is quite another to hold it.
The Baron stands up on the balcony and speaks into the voice box. House Harkonnen chooses to forfeit this contest. It would be unfair for a great house to go into combat against a minor house. We commend House Dargush on their excellent performance and look forward to seeing more from them in the future.
I will salute him with my Ginaz blade and say, House Dargush is honored by your kind words. You have been nothing but a gracious host thus far.
And while...
look a bit grumpy as well, though.
And while this exchange is going on, Isaac is paying very close attention to the House von Meer and their representatives to try to glean anything he can from their reactions.
The von Meer representatives don't appear to be at all fazed by that. Never mind, eh? Which itself begs a question. Why are they not fussed?
Yes. Sedela, it would appear that there is great theater going on here, and that what has occurred was, if not fully anticipated, the result of a minor house winning was the goal of House Harkonnen.
Well, when whatever von Meer is up to inevitably goes down, we have a little bit further to fall now.
As the rest of the afternoon wears on and the other contests happen, you can keep talking in the background.
Well, as
give you a rundown of the rest of the
Isaac,
events.
I want to make sure the von Meer see me and wink at Justine Jongleur as well. Just love winding them up.
So more events happen throughout the afternoon. You don't make it quite as far in the rest of the combats. People are a little bit more savvy towards you from that point on. The paired troops are won by House von Meer, who are drawn against Kiwa early on in the fight and concentrate very hard on smashing them. meaning that the rest of their run for the championship on that one is very straightforward. House Kiwa win the 4 versus 4. House Taisheng win the 1v1 without their contestant ever actually being seen.
Yeah.
A Taisheng person is certainly present in the arena when their competitor falls down. The specialist versus specialist is won by the Harkonnens. The final battle there is Harkonnen versus Gunnaruks. And the Gunnaruks use the last of their enhanced soldiers. But it does look a little bit sus as to how the Harkonnens managed to win that one. Because it does look like the Gunnaruks are going to win it, and then there's a last-minute surprise as their super soldier gets somehow effectively neutralized by a Harkonnen regular troopsman.
Mm-hmm.
Which leaves only the paired groups round. And then we will perhaps save the treasure hunt and the worm hunt for next week for the big finale.
Mm.
So, 2 factions against one another. We've got Jongleurs and Omora. We've got Dargush and Kiwa. The big houses sit this one out.
Uh-huh.
We've got Taisheng and Yash. So got them. We got Fonmir and I'm going to do Vonmir and Taisheng, and Yash will be with Fenring. It's a much smaller fight because there's only 8 minor houses participating.
Mm-hmm.
So that's first round is 2 houses against 2 houses. Second round will be winners versus winners.
Yep.
House Dargush and House Kiwa are pitted against House Jongleur and House Omora in the first round.
Watch out for the slippery ones.
Yeah. I will.
We are not
suggest
worried
my-
about Omora.
Yeah.
It is the Jongleurs we think are the ones to watch.
Well,
Yeah.
I would say we can use our combined expertise in that matter. If our Dargush troops pin them down as skirmishers, you can go in for the kill. And then
So keep them busy.
our friends,
We will storm the Omora line first.
yep, and we'll pin down
They
the
are not
jongleurs.
warriors. We will treat them kindly. The Jongleurs are the threat. If you can keep them entertained while we take the field, we will join you for the mop-up.
I'm not sure they'll be entertained, but they'll certainly be kept busy.
No, yeah, I would suggest using our troops as sort of like Civil War skirmishers.
Yep.
And then we'll keep the jongleurs pinned until the Quinoa roll
Okay,
up
so-
along their flanks.
Who's going to be the commander for this battle? Is it going to be
Well-
Morgan still?
Or the Kiwa?
Well, I'm going to let you and the Kiwa both roll.
Yeah.
Or
So
is
who's going to be the military leader for your house in this battle?
Morgan or Dela?
So
Am I
Dela.
allowed to participate?
You're
Yeah.
allowed to
Can.
participate, yeah?
Yes.
So
Or
Dela,
advise from the sidelines.
yes, so Dela, I would not recommend taking the field yourself. There is far too great a risk, and I do not believe your grandmother would appreciate the loss of you in the event that someone decides to take out a third heir to a house that has humiliated some enemies today.
I'm gonna make a big show of it to make sure that it seems like I'm the impetuous third son everyone thinks I am, and really want to take the field and have
The punch
have
up.
Isaac talk me out of it or talk me down, and then I'll go.
Patting you down.
Fine,
No,
yeah.
no, no.
Gretchen, what do you want to do while this little bit of theatre is going on? Because poor Gretchen hasn't had much of a chance to get stuck in this session.
No.
It's
Still
been
have the
boys
hat
and their
ready
toys,
for
hasn't
you.
it?
No, it's fine. She is to wait until somebody needs their kidneys removed via their nose. That's a thing that she's comfortable with. However, she will at some point want to have a conversation with the other Bene Gesserit along the lines of these Gunnarix. You've seen them, right? And also they believe that this pharmaceutical adaptation might eventually lead them to bettering a Bene Gesserit.
Do you think it's a spice derivative that they're using? Is that their reason for being here?
I will look at, I assume it's the Reverend Mother, and be like, I'm not trained in those lines of enquiry, I'm afraid, Reverend Mother. However, I am trained in the less subtle aspects of Prana Bindu conditioning. They have requested a combat, a private fight between myself and one of them. My confliction is, should I agree and offer them this intelligence, this information, or should I decline? Would that present the Bene Gesserit as a timid situation?
You can see her doing the calculations behind her eyes.
And then the final probability, which I reflect is not one I wish to enjoy, but I could indulge them and lose. Provide false information and false data. I do not agree with this last one, but the sisterhood.
It's worthy of you to suggest it. I will allow the contest to take place. Use it as an opportunity to gauge their strengths and weaknesses in a situation against someone with Prana Bindu training, but also attempt to gain access to a sample of this serum for analysis. That is your true end game. Win or lose, I will leave that up to you.
Yeah, and I will the finish our conversation about how nice Arakeen tea is. And I've seen some wonderful hawks flying over the city, and return to the Dargush enclave. And yeah, that's.
All right, so Morgan, 2 dice for the Dargush element of the combat strategy.
Use her momentum. Go on. You know you want to.
Is the Daler supporting or commanding?
I'm standing
Or
at
just
the
cheering?
back. I'm cheering. I'm
Okay.
close enough to shout at you. So you best do well.
I best spend that momentum then. Right, troop. The key are going to be the heavy hitters. I'm going to take out the fun boys. We need to keep these dancing fools in check. Don't trust them. Don't let them near you. It wouldn't surprise me if every single piece of them is poisonous.
Where you are, Chief.
If you can, shoot them in the ankles. Right. A bit of battle and what do you reckon? Duty or power?
Power.
It's Morgan on the battlefield. It's all
It's Morgan on the
about power, isn't it?
battlefield. He's not being subtle about this, is he? He's steamrollering.
I'm swinging my mace, singing a happy song.
Do, do, do,
Just singing.
That's just right. You know that thing where you like kick the mace or kick the weapon to gain momentum. It's just like that thing in Singing in the Rain, isn't it? Bonk. Boof.
I only got 2 criticals.
Only.
Oh, is that all?
That's all.
So that's 4 successes from
That
you.
is 4 successes from me.
3 successes from the Kiwa. So that's 7 successes for your side and 2 successes for the opposition.
Rush them.
The Kiwa absolutely wiped the floor with the Omora, and the Omora kind of cave after first contact. They knew they were going to get their asses handed to them, and they knew the jongleurs weren't going to support them. The jongleurs dance around a lot, and your men dance around a lot. And there's this sort of big old dance-off thing going on. But you can see that underneath that, there is actually a bit of a scrap going on. It's just no actual contact is made during it. You
We win the dance-off.
Suspect that the jongleurs might be attempting to introduce poisons into the mix based on the way they're holding and using their weapons.
Yeah.
You almost detached from yourself in this fight. Your battle awareness kicks in. You're almost mentat-like on the battlefield, observing everything, being paranoid about where attacks are coming from.
Stay clear, troop. Stay clear. Pick your targets. Don't get near them.
So you keep any of your men from being poisoned. Dayla, I would like you to make an observation roll of some kind, please.
What are we observing?
You're observing someone trying to do you ill. You personally, rather than you, House.
Would my danger sense and my duty to the house allow me to roll against that too?
Yes, it would.
All right.
And
So,
Gretchen, do you
can I
have
use
anything
my
that might
battle?
enable you to do like? Oh no, this is while you're talking to the Reverend
I'm
Mother.
talking about tea.
You're talking about tea with the Reverend Mother.
Birds.
Terrible bodyguard.
I got 1 critical and 1 success for a total of 3 successes using understand of 6 and duty of 7 with danger sense as a focus.
Can I use my battle and faith, because inspiring faith drives excellence in my mentat?
Nice.
Very good. Bravo.
In which case, I got 2 successes.
Well, somehow the area, your seating area, seems to have been built on some kind of scorpion nest.
Of
And
course it has.
the scorpions all come rushing up out of their nest, just suddenly, like a dozen of them all at once, just suddenly bursting out of the nest under where your seat is, but you're not sitting in it. You've stood up so that you can see the house better get on. And
I'm leaning over.
you see these scorpions come boiling out of the stairs and the seating area behind you. And you're quite subtly your mentat is walking back and forth behind you, observing the battlefield with a kind of crunch, crunch, crunch. And so you manage, with all of those successes, not only do you notice the scorpions, but you're able to crush them without it looking like you've freaked out and are jumping up and down on some scorpions. It's almost, and you can, actually, Isaac, you also notice that in the Von Meer part of the stands, someone is fiddling with a device and looking at it angrily like it's not working as it's supposed to. It seems remarkably coincidental.
I try to catch that person's eye if he glances over at us at all.
Oh, he's glancing over.
I do one of these.
Why aren't they dead?
I was gonna
I just wag. Isaac wags his finger at him and then smiles.
And so we're led to the final combat of today. And it's Dargush and Kiwa versus Von Meer and Taisheng.
Oh,
Oh.
crap.
The
Did we bank any
shields and
momentum
assassins.
from that previous one?
No,
we should-
because you spent it all
spent it
on
all.
finding the guy
Yeah.
in the audience, killing the scorpions, and knowing that you were about to be scorpioned in the bum.
What about the battle? So we had 7.
You
We
did
should
have
have-
7 successes in the battle.
should
That
have
is
banked-
very true.
Should have banked 2 or 3 out of the battle.
So
depending.
yes, you do bank 3 out of that battle. It is a
We-
decisive battle.
Do we want to use any of our momentum to create an asset in the field beforehand?
Some sort of bear.
Well, perhaps some
Oh,
sort
nice
of
idea,
area
Meredith
that would.
Exeter.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh look, House
we happen-
Lenses.
Yeah, we have a
It's bright.
specialist in that. Yeah, that's an idea. We could spend momentum to equip our troops with lenses, and then
You
use
could
them.
spend momentum to have a spotter with binoculars looking out for snipers from the Taisheng as well,
Yeah, I know.
and
Yeah.
calling it out to your men on the field. Step left now. Pew. So what do you want to do?
Morgan, you're in charge of the battle. What do you need?
Well, both. So I like summon sandworm.
I think we're going to need more than 2 momentum for that.
You reckon?
Yeah.
I like the using the lenses. That seems very much in keeping with the house.
We could use those to blind the snipers.
Yeah, I was thinking if
which
we
would
could
be more
use
fun.
that in
Because
combination
they'll
with the.
expect their snipers to fire, and then nothing will happen.
So
or
it will
they'll
cost
miss
you 2
massively.
momentum to have your house people in the audience, so your troops that aren't fighting,
Mm-hmm.
and your inner circle and any servants that you've got, just kind of twiddling lenses around in places where snipers might be.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see how well you stand up to those houses then.
Do you want one of these momentum for an extra dice?
I would, yes, please, thank you.
There you go.
Quick strategy meeting with the Kiwa. Have Von Meer have still got their servitors, or are they?
Von Meer
Slightly
have still
damaged.
got their servitors. Yeah, they appear to have brought a fair few with them. Some of these servitors look a little bit different to previous ones as well. Whereas previously you've been up against these big ape-like man servitors. These ones that they put on the field are shorter, more hunched over, and look a lot speedier and a lot sharper.
Faster
Did
to corner better.
We get a chance to converse with Morgan before.
Yes, yeah.
Can we hand him some of the pieces of scorpions? Because I'm assuming the scorpions are poisonous.
Will the Kiwa like that though? Will the
Also,
Kiwa-
that'd cost you because you're creating another asset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
The
Oh, we've
Kiwa.
spent-
I don't
someone
think you've
else's
got the
stuff.
momentum to create the asset. There.
No,
Ben
let's.
Give Ben threat. Yeah. no.
Absolutely
Ben.
welcome to give me some threat.
Oh, let's just. Well,
And
I
so,
will-
Dela, I am also, again, more than happy to take the field next to Sergeant Morgan to watch his back, if you feel the Von Meer may target him again.
I think in this fight it's a very.
Equally,
Probably.
Morgan, I would like at this point to challenge your drive, your dirty fighting drive.
Ooh.
Mm.
You've got one of your drives has got something to do with kicking people's asses, no matter the cost, hasn't it?
No, not so much. One of my
What's-
focuses is dirty fighting.
No, it's a drive.
Duty is a heavy weight. Everyone deserves a fair chance. Or what's the point of power if you don't wield it?
Right, okay, I'm going to call on that. I'm going to challenge that drive. What's the point of power if you don't wield it? You can, if you want, have a determination point.
Mm.
If you refuse the determination point, you fail the skill test
I don't like
that is
that.
coming up. If you accept the determination point, you can either challenge or comply with your drive statement. If you
Weird.
comply with it, you receive a complication. If you challenge it, you put a line through it and you have to change it or recover it to use that drive again. So, do you want a determination point?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to challenge or comply that what's the point in power if you don't use it? They're offering you bits of smushed up poisonous skeletons.
I will challenge it.
Okay, so put a line through what's the point in power. You can't use that now.
So I
Until
can't use that
the time-
drive at all, or
You can't use that drive at all now
Okay.
Now, but
until
you'll
you
get-
recover it between adventures.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you still get the point of determination.
You still get the
correct?
point of determination, though, yes.
Okay.
Which
I
can
thought
make
that
one
would
of
be a
your roll.
good point to add the challenging drives thing, because we haven't used
Mhm.
that yet. And
No,
as
no.
we get more used to the rules, it makes sense to add them bit by bit. So there's the perfect opportunity.
Yes.
Okie dokie. So you've got a point of determination now, though.
To development as well. It's
Mm.
nice.
Yeah.
So I can give you an auto crit if you want to spend it.
Yeah. Go on.
I'm standing by in the wing.
Immediately spend the determination you've just been given to get a crit. Is that what we've done there?
Why not?
Sure.
Go for it.
Good.
Take that.
Or Millie, who is in the background producing the show and managing all of these numbers that are going up and down.
Yeah.
Down, up,
Has
down.
probably never been kept quite this busy with the number counters. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down.
That's
But-
all right.
Just
I
spending it.
mean, Millie is showing true Benny Gesserit skill.
Discipline, yeah.
Holding conversations whilst changing numbers at the same time.
I'm going to recommend to the Kiwa that we abandon all pretense at subtlety and we play to their strength certainly as heavy infantry and ours as flanking skirmishers, and we just flying wedge into the center of the Von Meer as a way to reduce the efficacy of the Taishing snipers.
Swordmaster Aki laughs at your suggestion. It's a bold move. I appreciate it. I agree. Men? Oh, ha!
Yeah.
Go on then, make your roll. Let's see how
Right,
well
true.
you do for your chaps.
So you got 3 dice, yeah? Because you spent that momentum.
Yep. Battle of duty.
Yeah.
For the house. For honor. For the blood of our enemies on the sands of a distant land. That's 2 crits.
6.
Oh, 3.
3
Three
crits.
crits.
Including your
crits.
determination crit.
Oh, sorry, 4.
Oh my word.
8.
8 successes.
We
do you
should
get
have
8
taken on
successes in
House
this game?
Harkonnen.
I would like
Yeah,
I'd
maybe
like
you
to
should have fought House Harkonnen.
break
Maybe
the
we
bond
should
there.
just take them all on now.
This is like a, you know what?
Dargush
Screw
for
it. Let's
Empire.
fight the Sardaukar.
Bring it.
Dargush for Emperor. Let's go, Dela.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Kiwa are actually a little bit stunned by the violence with which you deploy yourselves as your men go flying into battle. Couple of shots ring out around the outside edges, none of them even pinging off your shields because your men aren't there when the bullets land. The Taishing snipers are having trouble keeping up with your movement.
That's
They're
the
managing
plan.
to corral the Kiwa a little bit better because they're slower, but they're moving in a disciplined wedge. The Kiwa kind of offset the Taisheng a little bit, but it's actually House Dargush that does the lion's share of the work because the Taisheng are pinning the Kiwa, so the Kiwa can't move in the way that they're comfortable with. So instead of being able to like step up and go boom, 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 and take step by step and engage the enemy and then make a mess of them, the Kiwa are being kind of pinned down. They're having to shift their formations. They're having to sidestep shots. But the Dargush just kind of explode into this cloud of moving skirmishers. Circle the Von Meer. The Von Meer think they've got you for a few seconds as they unleash these fast-moving clawed servitors. These things open up their hands and claws just sort of slide out of them. And they come steaming round at very high speed. Somebody's done something to their nerve endings because these things are moving almost twice as fast as a man should. And Gretchen, you're looking at them and you're like, bloody hell, I could dodge that with the weirding way, but it would not be easy. But the Dargush men aren't there when the claws land because the Dargush men don't stop, and women. The men and women because the Dargush employ female soldiers as well because they're not horribly sexist pigs like many of the other great houses.
We respect skill.
The Von Meer are taken by surprise. They were expecting to own this fight, and under any other circumstances, they probably would have done. They put up an incredible show with these servitors, but your men run rings around them. They take them out, they put them down, they tangle them up. Your men are deploying unusual weapons like rope and things like that. Instead of bothering to fight them with guns and knives, two men are taking a rope between them and just tangling them up and sweeping legs. And you've taken the floor of the arena just as the Kiwa sort themselves out and arranged themselves with their half shields to face outwards to protect against bullets into like a moving square. And as they're ready to tackle the Von Meer, they turn around to fight them and they're already laying down. And the Kiwa Swordmaster just kind of looks a little bit stunned at you.
Makes over my shoulder. What took you so long?
The heir of the house reaches around your shoulder and he puts his hand on your far shoulder, Dela.
I'm going to hug him and then I'm going to turn to the where I presume the Harkonnen and the Fenring are and say, we dedicate this victory to our hosts, House Harkonnen, and the new, what are they called? Custodians of Arrakis, House Fenring. And then I'll lift my counterpart's hand up. And I'll do this to House Von Meer.
To think, yesterday I did not know you or your house, but today I see you as my brother.
Well, it can only mean good times to come.
The alliance of our houses is certain in this place and in all others. And he claps you by the arm as well. So you've got your arms around each other. You've got the big old elbow handshake thing going on. The Swordmaster comes up to you and pats you on the shoulder, says, "You fight like a whirlwind, my friend.
Thank you.
Truly astonishing. Truly astonishing." And your men and the Kiwa men are all doing that whole sweat t-shirts.
We would not be here if you were not so steadfast and redoubt.
We had expected a good fight. We had not expected good allies.
We aimed to surprise.
By this point, the sun has just set on the mountains. The sky is aflame in a riot of oranges. The green moon is rising on the far side of the world, bathing the entire sky in a spectrum of hues. The Baron Harkonnen comes to the podium once more and he says, "Truly astonishing displays of military prowess this day. We've actually run on into the afternoon much later than we'd hoped because such displays have been so incredible. Tomorrow morning, join us once again for the treasure hunt and the technical displays by our houses before we take our guests into the desert to hunt the great worm of the deep desert. For now, we feast. And fireworks and streamers.
Rah!
Everybody's cheering and applauding. Ewoks start playing the drums on stormtrooper helmets.
We turn them into hats.
Yeah. Where do you think we get the hats?
So thank you very, very much for joining us again for Dune, The Adventures of House Dargush. Join us again next week for the concluding part of our little Dune prologue, where we find out what happens in the deep desert. Will a worm be tracked? Will a worm be caught or killed? Will Dela make contact with their smuggler allies from Sich Abikat?
Hopefully.
Hope so.
Next
Well, yeah.
week on Garblag Games, we have a full week of Garblag. Monday, we've
Spectaculars.
got Spectaculars. That's my one, with the buddy cop duo of Millie and Alden doing Eldritch Mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday, we've got Coriolis
Yep.
early on, BST. And then we've got Spectaculars again, the City of New Eden, where Grendel gets to have a punch-up with a big monster, I think.
That does seem to be the plan.
It does seem to be the plan, doesn't it? Wednesday, Watitau, Once Upon a Time in the Old World, our Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th edition comedy, tragedy, horror,
All that
mashup,
and more.
Everything.
all that and more. Western.
Yeah.
Thursday, we've got
Operation Cold
Frontier
Catch.
War, Operation
Cold Catch? Yeah, I think
Cold
it's
Catch, Quick
yeah.
Catch,
Catch.
catching something.
Operation Give Dan a new character.
Operation
The other Dan.
character. And then Friday, we're back for the last part of the Dune prologue, where we've been having a playthrough of the new Dune RPG from Modiphius and loving every second of it. It's been amazing. Thank you so much for the
Oh,
raid.
and
Thank you,
Ben,
chat,
real
for-
quick.
Oh, yes.
And real quick, Wednesday evening, I believe Garblag North America is going to build their Blades in the Dark crew and
Oh.
characters.
Oh.
Ooh.
And actually, no, that's not happening on stream tomorrow. No, that's
No.
a non-streamed game.
Secrets.
Secrets.
Redacted, confidential, secret thing. Join us
Retcon.
on the Discord.
Did
Come-
not happen.
Come to Discord.
But thank you very much for coming along tonight. Thanks for all your rerolls. Thanks for
Thank
all
you.
of the conversation
Thank
in
you.
chat. It's been brilliant. Lovely to have you. And we will see you next week for more Garblaggy goodness.
Bye.
Cheers.